What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Blitz the Bookie. I'm Charlie Winkle, joined as always by Anthony Roberts. Thank you all for listening. We appreciate you taking the time out of your day to check us out. Don't forget to like and subscribe on all your favorite streaming platforms, and also check us out on the Blitz the Bookie Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube pages. We cannot stress enough how much we appreciate each and every one of you guys. We know that there's tons of different options out there, so thank you all for checking us out. Please continue to comment and leave us feedback on any of the streaming platforms. Leave us comments. Tell us what you think, what you like about the show, what you don't, what you want to hear, what you want to talk about, and we're going to try to be more in touch with you guys. We want to try to figure out a way to be more interactive with the listeners and get more feedback from you guys. So please continue to give us that feedback. Even if it's bad, we can take it.
That's right.
Good or bad, bring it to us. All right, so with that, Anthony, let's get right into it. The college football regular season is over. It's a wrap. And we now have our first ever 12-team college football playoff set and ready to rock and roll. I know you got some stuff to say about it, but one thing's for sure, it's going to be awesome, Anthony.
It will.
Next weekend, we got what, a week and a half? Next Friday, right? Friday, first game, Indiana, Notre Dame next Friday. I can't wait. It's going to be fun.
It is. I'm absolutely ecstatic over the college football playoff, the 3 or 4 weekends of football, the home games, the first round, which I think are absolutely going to be awesome, Charlie. We actually had a chance to go to the Big Ten Championship this past weekend. It was awesome. I will say I heard this, and I kind of agree. The game was awesome. It was a cool, just kind of a bucket list item there. Me and my son, we seen tickets were cheap because Ohio State had lost, and we got some cheap tickets. We went up to Indy to watch the game. It was a good time. The place was packed, which I was surprised of. I will say this, though, Charlie. I will say, and I'd heard this, but I'd never really been to a lot of Big Ten games over the years. Most of my experience in college football has either been here locally with U of L or going down south to go to the SEC games. And going to those games and going to Big Ten games, I'd always heard that the Big Ten, it was more like a pro crowd. That, yes, they were into their teams, but I'm not going to say they were like too good to get up and hoop and holler, but going to an SEC football game, if you've never been to one, a good SEC football game, you don't sit down. It's up, it's intense, you're hollering stuff at them all game. I think it's a pro crowd. I've been to a handful of pro NFL games over my life, and that's the thing I've always enjoyed about college football over NFL is I just think the atmospheres in college football are better. For people that haven't been to college football games, maybe they've never experienced that or haven't been to a college football game in the South. It was a great experience for me and my son. We got to see a really good game between Penn State and Oregon, and just a cool experience, a bucket list item. But I will say I'd heard that it felt, Charlie, like the conference championships felt like exhibition games. I know you said you didn't feel that way watching them on TV.
Well, to be fair, I watched them on TV, but I was a little bit preoccupied.
That's right. Charlie was invited to go with us to the Penn State Oregon game, but y'all went over to the casino, didn't y'all?
Yeah, I was at the casino, so I kept an eye on them, but I wasn't watching them. I was nowhere near locked in.
Did they have the games on over there?
Yeah, they had them all on, and I actually had my phone out in the party bus watching the Texas-Georgia game on the way there. So I was watching, but I wasn't as locked in as I normally am. So I didn't get the feeling that you said that you got from that. But, look, with the way stuff is shifting with this playoffs, that might happen.
Yeah.
That might happen.
Oh, good.
More often. It kind of sucks, but I didn't get that feeling when I was watching. But I was at the casino with bourbon in my hand.
That's right.
Throwing the dice and trying to win some money.
I tell you, I thought it felt like an exhibition environment. And I think a lot of that was because I think most things were settled before those games. But the biggest thing that I think people all over college football world are talking about is whoever lost the Big Ten championship game was going to be in a better situation than if they won. For those
that's exactly what happened.
I do think both teams try to win, but whoever lost, really, when they went back to the locker room, probably was happy. Probably was happy because the way the format is now, and it has to change, but as of now, the 4 highest rated conference champions all get a bye. So you're ending up with Arizona State and Boise as a bye as the 3 and 4 seed. Well, the team that lost the Big Ten title was going to end up with a 5 or 6 seed. This sounds crazy if you're not following this right now, if you're just kind of getting locked into what's going on. But as of now, the 5 and 6 seed's the best seed in the tournament. Now they are going to, there's no doubt in my mind they're going to change it. Everybody's talking about it all over the college football world. But as of now, the 5 and 6 seed are the best seeds because they play the 12 and 11 seed, and then they play into the 3 and 4, which is always going to be the lower ranked of those conference champions. This year it's Arizona State and Boise State, which there's no way they should get a bye. But that takes us into the college football.
Well, before we do that, since you're talking about changes,
okay,
let's go ahead and get your opinion.
Yep.
So what do you think the change should be? How should they
Yep.
How do you think that they should seed these brackets?
So for me,
if it was up to you right now.
If it was up to me, for me it's real simple. There's only one group that's not biased in the whole country. One group. I'm biased, you're biased. SEC fans are biased, ACC fans are biased, Big Ten fans are biased. Everybody has a little bias. Would you agree with that, Charlie?
Absolutely.
I think that's human nature.
Except me.
Sure, that's human nature. Even when we don't try to be biased, I think everyone has bias. I even think the playoff committee's biased. They will never admit it, but there's people in that committee that are connected to certain universities, certain conferences, and that's why they have so many from this area, so many from that area. But there's one group in the whole country, in my opinion, who is not biased. And that's because they got to put their money where their mouth is. And the group in the country that's not biased is Las Vegas, Nevada. They set point spreads that based off what they think they should be. They can't be biased. If they're biased, then they take a bloodbath. So
you're still not answering the question.
So I think it should be. That's where I'm getting into. I think it should. If you just gave it to me, I know it's not going to be this way. But if you gave it to me in a perfect world, I would say rank them by who's the best team and go by what the point spread would be in Las Vegas, Nevada, because they're the only ones that aren't biased.
So how are you, but you're still not answering how you rank in the 12.
Based off who would be but off the power ranking that Vegas would give you. Let them come up, the lines makers come up with the power ranking of who would be favored over who, and that would give you your 12 best teams. My biggest argument, and we'll get into this, Charlie, because we've already talked about it a little bit today, and I will give the committee some slack on this. Even though I'm mad at them, and I'll get into my argument, but the schedules in college football, it's not like the NFL. The NFL schedules can be a lot different, and there are definitely some schedules in the NFL that are easier than other schedules. But in college football, schedules are so much different. Environments are so much. It's how can you compare, the SMU Alabama, topic? I know me and Charlie's going to touch on it because we already have amongst friends here. But it's just too hard to compare when you got one team that's playing 5 or 6 top 25 teams that are going to tough SEC environments where you got sold out stadiums every week versus a team that maybe has played one top 25 team all year and don't go into tough environments. I'm not saying that they're not good. I'm just saying, how do you compare those two schedules? That's tough. And that's where I think if you gave it to Vegas and just let them decide, because I think everybody's in agreement.
So you're saying you want Vegas to rank the top 12?
Yes, because I think they're unbiased, and I think they got really smart people working for them. I think they got the smartest in the game.
I don't hate that. It just won't ever happen.
I agree with that. I do agree with that.
I don't hate that. So being the fact that I know that that's not going to happen, I'll tell you how I think it should be done. Basically the same as what you're saying, but you got to go by, look, you got to go by these rankings. I know sometimes everybody's going to disagree at some point with the rankings, no matter who ranks.
With the college football rankings or the AP or what?
Well, yeah, the college football rankings.
Okay. But the people that rank them are also the people that seed them. So they're going to make their rankings according to what they think the seeds are. But, yeah,
Well, you can make that argument, but if that's the argument, why is Alabama not in? Why aren't they in?
Sure.
Why did they leave SMU in, and why didn't they put Alabama in? Because we've talked about it. The money runs this whole deal. The money runs it, and if they wanted Alabama, we could have had Alabama against Penn State.
Sure.
Why didn't they?
Sure. Look, I could get
Because
into
I expected them to do it.
Sure, I didn't. For me, I think it comes down to this, Charlie, and we'll get into it since we're here. And I know you feel different. I know you do, and that's
Well,
okay.
real quick before we do that, I do think that they should seed the tournament by the rankings, but I do think that the conference champions should get in. Yeah. So by that standard, Alabama would still be out.
Yeah.
Clemson would still be the 12, but the top 4 would change. If we went like that, it would be Oregon, Georgia, Texas would be 3, and Penn State would be 4.
Sure.
And it would change up everything. You'd have an 8-9 game, Indiana against Boise. Does that not scream 8-9 to you?
Yeah, no.
Does Indiana against Boise not scream 8-9 matchup to you?
No, I get what you're saying.
And they would be playing in to play Oregon. Isn't that what should happen instead of Oregon sitting here waiting to play Ohio State and Tennessee?
That's ridiculous.
That 8-9, that Indiana Boise State, when I wrote this up, as soon as I wrote it down, I said, that is a prototypical 8-9 game right there. And that's exactly what should be drawing into your 1 seed.
No doubt. No doubt. It's, my only problem with that is, and it gets into my argument, and I haven't always felt this way, but with the conference realigning, I just think the top 2 conferences are so strong. I've said it on this show a million times. I love Dabo Swinney. I love the Clemson program, love everything about them. But to me, they didn't deserve to be in. I think they got in because it was a really weak conference this year. The ACC was historically down this year. And with them being down, it just – look, I looking at their schedule right now, if we take out the SMU game, because that's the championship game, everybody says those don't count. Clemson's best win this year was against Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech that's not even in the top 25. That's their best win.
So you don't think a conference champion should get automatic?
I don't. Not in today's college football. And yesterday's college football, yes. But in today's college football, the ACC was just so down this year, and I think you're going to run into it.
The ACC will be up and down. It will never be what the Big Ten and
yes,
the SEC
but
is.
If they're good enough, they'll get in.
They'll have better years where the ACC won't always be garbage.
Sure, but if you're good enough from the ACC, you'll still get in, and I expect them to have teams in.
I think the ACC and the Big 12, of course, along with the SEC and Big 10, should get automatic bids. If you want to take whatever conference Boise's in, which I don't even know, Mountain West. Mm-hmm. If you want to take that one out of it, I'm completely good with that. Because let's look at Boise's schedule. Who did they play?
Yeah, I know. Nobody.
Well, I guess they played Oregon.
They got beat. And we're not talking about close games, because if we talk about close games, then I can make all kinds of arguments.
I do think the Big 12 and the ACC were a little bit down this year, and they're always going to be down compared to these 2 mega conferences that we have.
Yeah, but the ACC was really down, with Florida State being down.
But the ACC won't always be that down.
I agree with that.
Florida State will be back.
But if they're good enough, they'll still get in a team.
To me, if you don't put the conference champion in, I almost feel like you got to get rid of the conference championship games altogether. Why are we playing them? We're already. Some people are playing, some aren't. Some teams are benefiting more from not playing in those games. Some people, like Oregon, are winning another game for no reason and still getting screwed. Only undefeated team in the whole tournament.
Sure.
I mean, if you're telling me a conference champion doesn't get in, get rid of those games altogether.
And I'm not saying I'm against that. I think it's a decent argument you're making in that sense. But for me, it's just when you say your best wins against Virginia Tech, I mean, I know.
Clemson's not, they probably don't deserve to be
in.
There's
people that have played games all year long. And look, there's always going to be somebody left out, somebody that gets in. But there's people that play games all year long. I feel like you owe it to the teams to try, and they've said this, we're going to try to get the best 12 teams in there. I think you owe it to the fans. I think you owe it to the teams. I think you owe it to everybody involved to get the best 12 teams in there. And that's where I like the idea of Vegas doing it, because they have no bias. They have no bias. And let me give you this example real quick, Charlie. And this talks about, of course, if you're hearing me talk, you know that I'm upset about the Alabama SMU deal. I knew it was going to happen. It just looked like it was going to happen. Because what I've learned over the last year or two is that I feel like the committee, they value the loss number more than they value who you played, how you did against who you played. And I'll go into that. SMU had one loss. They ended up having 2 losses when they got beat by Clemson. SMU's best win was against Louisville. After that, it really fell off just because they were in the ACC. Okay, so you had a 1-loss team going into the conference championship. They ended up with 2, but they had 1. We're not going to count that second one because Alabama wasn't in the conference championship. So as I look at SMU's schedule, we'll take out the Clemson game. They lost the Clemson game. They beat Duke in overtime. These are their best quality games, not just wins, best quality games. They lost to Clemson, but we're not going to count that. They beat Duke in overtime by 1. They beat Louisville by 7. In that game, Louisville had the ball down at the 18-yard line late in the game, chance to tie it there. And they lost to BYU 18-15. That's their 3 best games, Duke, Louisville, and BYU. All of them were super close game. We got an overtime game, we got a 3-point game, and we got a 7-point game. But Duke, remember that, Duke, Louisville, and BYU, and they lost to Clemson, but we're not going to count that. So remember that, Duke, Louisville, BYU. So let's go up here to Alabama. Alabama, night game at LSU. LSU was probably when LSU was playing their best football. They were up on LSU 42-6. They hadn't allowed a touchdown all game to LSU at LSU. LSU has a really good offense. Their defense is so-so at times, but really good offense. They gave up. The touchdown they gave up was with 10 seconds to go. It was in junk minutes. They absolutely dominated LSU night game at LSU. They beat Missouri 34-0. Missouri's a top 25-ish type team. Tennessee, they lost in Knoxville 17-24. And a lot of people think they got a few bad calls in that game. Really close game, came down to the end. In Knoxville, Tennessee's a playoff team. You got South Carolina, borderline playoff team. They beat them 25-27. Vandy, middle of the road, but a solid team. I think everybody would agree with that. They lost that one 35-40. They beat Georgia 34-41. But I will never forget that first half. They just looked like they were so dynamic. And then they go to Camp Randall, one of the toughest places in the country to play. I'm not saying they were all world, but they gave Oregon a hell of a game at home, and they beat Wisconsin 42-10. So you got a game at Wisconsin, Camp Randall. You got a game against Georgia, Vandy, South Carolina, Tennessee, a playoff team. At LSU, night game, dominate Missouri the week before. And win the Iron Bowl, they were pretty much up 28-6 the whole game and lost the turnover battle 4-2. You have about 8 or 9 quality games. I'm sitting here looking at and dominated a lot of them. And I'm sitting here looking at SMU schedule. They got 3 games and one of them I had to stretch just to come up with. They lost 1, they won 1 by 7, and won 1 in overtime. And you got 3 of those versus 8 games there. You cannot compare their wins and losses. It's a totally different world. And on top of that, the SEC environments are the toughest environments to play in the country. You got sold-out stadiums all over the country. You just do. And all over the South. It's just a different world. Sorry for the rant, but that's where I am with it. What's your opinion of it, Charlie?
No, you've got to argue. There's an argument to be made. But here's the thing. Their schedule situation is not changing.
I agree.
The only thing that could help SMU in the future is that the ACC gets a little bit better.
Well, they're in a great spot now. I wouldn't even want to be nowhere different. They got in.
And the Big 12 are not ever going to have the strength of schedule that the teams in the SEC. Well, they're just not.
Well, I heard Nick Saban say this. It's kind of opened my eyes. If you put more of the best teams in, no matter what, then I think you would. And he thinks you would too, because then people would schedule more people.
So
because
you want to rank the top 12 off strength of schedule?
No, just have unbiased people up there. And Vegas is the only people I know of that are unbiased. It can be anybody. I don't care if it's Vegas or not. But yes, I want the 12 best teams playing in the tournament. I don't care who it is. I don't care if they're all from the Big Ten. The 12 best teams in the tournament from an unbiased source. And I think if you get a truly unbiased source, that's why I like Vegas, then that's the 12 best teams in college football.
I could argue that the people that put this together would love Alabama in. So why is it that they didn't put them in?
I think they would have took a lot of heat. People have they have it out for Alabama. All over the country. The favorite topic was Alabama didn't get in. Alabama didn't get in. I love a playoff without Alabama. Well, let me tell you what. Every time Alabama gets in, they do damn good. So, it'd be one thing if when Alabama gets in, they get beat, but they don't. Like last year, they got in. They were a play away from winning the national title. They come in and they perform. Will we be able to say the same for a Clemson? Will we be able to say the same for an SMU? I don't think you should get in just because we think we got to give so many over here in. Let's put the best teams in. And I'm going to tell you what, the SEC is going to get the last laugh on this. Everybody's laughing right now, Alabama. The SEC is going to get the last laugh on this because they're not happy about this. And they got a lot of leverage. And whatever is going to happen, I guarantee you they get it right, Charlie.
Well,
I
since we talked about what we wanted to happen,
that's right.
Now I'll go ahead and tell you what's probably going to happen. They're going to change it to 16 soon.
Okay.
I'd say real soon. And your two power conferences are probably going to demand a certain amount of automatic bids, probably 3 or 4 of them.
Mm-hmm. Because you know why, Charlie? So, and I heard Saban, I heard Alabama's.
And they'll get it.
Yeah, they will. What's the value of scheduling any kind of hard games now?
Well, I've heard that too, but the games Alabama lost.
I'm not talking about Alabama. I'm talking about anybody.
I know, but I'm just saying Alabama's the one that they had 3 losses. They're the one that didn't get in, but their 3 losses were all conference games.
And I agree with that, but they played, you might laugh at
Clemson could have an argument for that, and Georgia, because Clemson got routed game 1 against Georgia.
Yeah. It's
I guarantee you they'll want out of that game.
Yeah, they got rushed.
Kentucky and Louisville won't be playing here in a few years.
Yeah. No, I wouldn't play them. There's no way.
But that's what's going to happen.
But even 16. Alabama playing a Western Kentucky early in the year, no way I'm playing Western Kentucky. No way I'm playing Wisconsin at Camp Randall every other year. No way. I'm not playing those games. Yeah, Western Kentucky's actually a decent, whatever league they're in.
Alabama ain't scared of Western Kentucky.
I know, but why schedule them? Why not just schedule a cupcake?
Well,
I mean, they are easy, but that's not a cupcake.
16 is this 12-team playoff is going to be awesome, and I'm not complaining because
me neither.
I am so excited for this. Maybe Alabama should have been in. I honestly do think they should have been in, and there's only one reason that I say that, because I think if you put Alabama in, they would have a chance to win it all.
Mm-hmm. No, they would.
I'm sitting here looking at the teams that were left out. This is the remaining top 25, okay?
Mm-hmm.
First team out, Alabama. Second team out, Miami. Then it was Ole Miss and South Carolina. Mm-hmm. Okay, there's 4. That's your 4 to add that would make 16. Okay? Here's the teams underneath after South Carolina. BYU, Iowa State, Missouri, Illinois, Syracuse.
I think everybody
Colorado, UNLV. Do any of those teams have a chance to win it all?
No.
16's the number. We could argue that Alabama could win it all. Do I think Miami, Ole Miss, or South Carolina would win it all? No. But I think 16 is the number, and I think that almost proves it right there. You've got the 12
I'm with you.
You got Bama, Miami, Ole Miss, South Carolina. I don't think anybody would be mad except SEC haters. They'd be mad because that'd be three more SEC teams.
Well,
but those 4 teams are the ones that I could argue could make a run. But BYU, Iowa State, Missouri, Illinois, Syracuse, Colorado, UNLV, Memphis, they are not winning.
No.
Army. I'm sorry, I left out Army.
Yeah.
They ain't making a run. Sorry. 16's the number.
No.
Let's get to 16.
I like it. On a side note, I do like that, Charlie, a lot. I like it a lot. Ole Miss would be favorites over half the teams in this tournament. I will say that. They'd be favorites over half the teams in this tournament. Not all of them, but they'd be favored over half on a neutral field I'm talking about. Alabama would be favored over a decent number 2. Let me give you some, before we go into who the winners and the losers of the actual tournament that was drawn are, let me give you a couple hypotheticals that FanDuel put up. These are second round hypotheticals if teams win that kind of are supposed to win, or I just wrote down a few of them. So if Penn State wins, so Boise's sitting there with the bye, which is ridiculous.
3 seed.
But if Penn State wins, FanDuel has Penn State on a neutral field, which that's where it'll be, 11.5-point favorite over a team that got a bye.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
That's ridiculous. Texas, if they win on a neutral field, once again, another team ridiculous got a bye, Arizona State. I'm not saying they're a bad team. No way they should get a bye. They should barely be in the tournament. But Texas, on a neutral field, will be a 13.5-point favorite over Arizona State on a neutral field. If they win, Clemson.
Take Arizona State.
I'll take Texas. But whatever, that's what it would be. Clemson, if they beat Texas, would still be a 4.5-point favorite over Arizona State. Oregon, if Tennessee was to beat Ohio State, Oregon would be a 4.5-point favorite over Tennessee. If Ohio State was to beat Tennessee in that first round game, Oregon will be a 1-point favorite. And there's one more here. If Indiana wins, Georgia will be a 5.5-point favorite over Indiana. if Notre Dame wins, Notre Dame will be a 1.5 point favorite over Georgia.
I would love that. I'm
It's,
going to be cheering for Indiana to win that game, but if Notre Dame is favored over Georgia,
I know you said that.
lay it all on Kirby and
hear
the
you.
boys. Lay it all on them.
It's that would be I think it would be an interesting game because I think they play very similar styles.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense that a team is going to play in to a 3 seed or a 4 seed that's got a bye, and then they're going to be 10 or double-digit
11
favorites.
or 13.
That's ridiculous. So my hypothetical here with how it should have been, with the way I said it should have been, you'd be looking at Indiana or Boise playing against Oregon.
Mm-hmm.
Oregon would be considerably favored in those games, right?
Yeah.
Instead of pretty much a pick 'em against the Ohio State or maybe a couple point favorite against Tennessee, right?
Oregon, I would say Oregon would be, just based off the other spreads I'm looking at, I would say Oregon would be 8 over Indiana. I would say Boise, they'd be 15.
Yeah. Instead of being damn near a pick 'em against an Ohio State or maybe
four over Tennessee, 4.5.
Yeah. Makes more sense, doesn't it?
No, absolutely it does.
I mean, it just makes more sense. The matchups would be so much better.
It's ridiculous.
It's ridiculous.
It's ridiculous. They got that wrong. But I'd heard a YouTube guy talk about this, and he was 100% right. Everybody says, well, they'll be able to fix that. Anybody with any kind of sense, if they were looking at the college football playoff from afar, even when it was announced, knew that if you knew the rules of how this was going to be done, the 5 and 6 was always going to be the best seeds. With the way the conferences are lined up now, if it was 5 years ago, then I would say no, because I think there was more balance in the conferences. But with a lot of the good teams going to the Big Ten and SEC, the conferences are just so different now. The quality is so different.
It really messes up the whole bracket when you think about it too, because what it does is it pushes teams that should have been maybe like a 5 or a 6 down to a 7, 8, 9.
Oh, it does.
Now that's how you end up with Ohio State and Tennessee as an 8, 9 when those two teams should have probably been more like a 5, 6 or a 6, 7.
That's why, at the end of the day, look, we can say this, we can say that, but at the end of the day, I just think it should be the best teams. Whoever it is, the best teams. Now, it's the fairest way to do it. I say Vegas because I think they're the only ones that aren't biased, but it could be a committee. Can we get a committee to be unbiased? That's the question. Can we get a committee to be unbiased, Charlie?
No.
Yeah, I agree. 100%. No. That's why I like Vegas. Let's talk about the bracket just a little bit, why we like the format, why we don't like the format. I do know this. I did hear that we're going to have to live with this format one more year because I think it's a 2-year contract, not unless they do something. But I doubt them smaller conferences will agree with that because if you're Boise, if you're Arizona State, you're loving it. You're loving every second of that. So let's talk about it for a second. So essentially, you got 2 parts of this bracket. It's a 12-team playoff. You have the upper and you have the lower. I definitely think the upper part of the bracket definitely is harder. In the upper part of the bracket, in my opinion, I think you have 3 of the best teams in the country. You have Oregon, you have Texas, and you have Ohio State. And I think even Tennessee is tough. But Oregon, Texas, Ohio State, in my opinion, are
He's sleeping on Scatty Bow and the boys.
Is 3 of the best 4 teams that can really win it. Now, I say that. There's a couple other teams that probably can win it, but those are the best teams. At the bottom, whoever got put on the bottom got the better draw. And the names that jump off to me are Georgia and Notre Dame. I think really Georgia got a really nice draw.
Penn State got the best draw.
They did. No, they did. They're down there with them. In saying that, it's the format's going to
drag. The best draw. Oregon got screwed.
They did.
How does the best team in the country, the only undefeated team throughout the whole year, get screwed the most?
But everybody knew that going into that game. Everybody knew. I was worried if a team would throw it, but I'll give Dan Lanning credit and James Franklin credit. I didn't feel like neither team tanked that game. I didn't. I feel like they were going at each other. I'll give them credit because I think definitely the 5-6 spot is the better spot to be in. And I didn't feel like neither team tanked. So, it's
Ohio State being 8 is ridiculous.
No, it is. It is.
They should be no higher than 6.
Yep. I get it. But how do we fix that? We talk about it. We ask for change. We demand change as college football fans. And I think the powers to be will be forced to do it. A lot of things can change in 2 years or a
Let's
year
talk
and a half.
another way Oregon got screwed. Number 1 seed, yeah, they get a bye, but why don't they get a home game?
Yeah. No, I'm with you. You know why?
Yeah, because
they don't want to get rid of the bowls.
Yeah,
the bowl
course,
games.
of
So
course.
for those that don't know, the first round games are not bowl games. They are just neutral. I mean, not neutral.
They're hosted by the better seed.
By the better seed. Whoever wins that game goes over to the next round, which is the original bowl games, the New Year's 6 bowl games. So there's no home teams. But I'm with you on that. I'm with you. I think if you are one of the top 4 seeds, you should be able to host a home playoff game. I like it, Charlie. But that one don't bother me as much as the other stuff. I'm with you. I agree with you 100%. But that don't bother me as much as the current format of how these teams are determined bothers me. They need to fix that. And shame on them for not seeing that because they had to see it. But I do think the SEC will get the last laugh and Big Ten will get the last laugh. But Big Ten should be happy. They got the 4 in that they wanted to get in. But the thing with the Big Ten, they're just top heavy. The thing that makes the SEC so difficult is the atmospheres. I talked about going to the Penn State this week, but it's the SEC is just so balanced. It's almost like watching the NFL. Your teams are going to lose games. They're going to lose games, especially when you're going into stadiums and you got 80,000 crazy screaming fans. Even for the teams that aren't no good, if you don't watch college football, check it out. Get on there and check it out. You know, when Oklahoma beat Alabama, watched how 80,000 people stormed the field in Norman. I mean, it was lights out loud the whole game. You just don't see that in every conference. Not for a team that had the record that Oklahoma had. And let's keep in mind that everybody keeps wanting to knock Oklahoma. Oklahoma was trending a little right, but Oklahoma is still filled with 4- and 5-star players. They still got a really good coach. They hadn't had the year they wanted, but they are still filled with a lot of talent. It's ain't like there's some bums that are recruiting 2- and 3-star kids. They still have a lot of talent on that Oklahoma team. They just hadn't lived up to expectations this year. And maybe some of that was they're welcoming to the SEC. So I'll say this, Charlie. I think we both can agree with this. Super excited about the playoff.
I can't wait. It's gonna be fun.
So
I can't wait.
It is. So
I almost debated going. I told you my buddy got spur of the moment right after the games were announced. He goes on and buys 3 tickets to the Tennessee-Ohio State game. They were pricey, but I was considering going. He just texted me, said he got rid of the other 2. His brother, I think his brother and his nephew's going, which they're gonna have a great time. I was actually really contemplating going at Ohio State against Tennessee, first 12-team playoff. Man, that would have been fun.
No, it would have.
That would have been fun. So
I did get on there and check out the
ticket prices are crazy.
No, I did. So we're saying the cheapest ticket prices on Vivid Seats. That's just the app I use. No affiliation with us, but
did you see the Notre Dame game?
Yeah. So the Notre Dame game was the most expensive. The cheapest tickets that I seen that day, which was like a day or 2 ago when I was doing my preparation. Notre Dame, the cheapest tickets I seen were about $800. That was the cheapest. That's up top, $800.
I thought I saw like $1,400.
Maybe it changed. I don't know, but
it was great. I couldn't believe it when I seen it.
And it was a big jump to the next highest one. The next highest one, Ohio State. I think the cheapest ones I seen were like for $240. Not good seats.
Before fees.
Yeah, before fees.
Yeah,
we all know about that. We all know about the fee.
That's a well over a $400 ticket probably right there.
Yeah, it's
the way they hit you on those fees.
They hit you hard. And the cheapest ticket actually was Penn State. You could get up in the nosebleed in the Penn State game was $90 before fees. They're playing SMU. Oh, that probably has a little something to do with it. But I'm missing a game there. So I had the Notre Dame game, the Ohio State game.
Texas Clemson.
Yeah, the Texas Clemson game. That was at Texas. I think that was right around what Ohio State was, maybe a pinch lower. But you got to keep in mind that is in Texas. The cost of living's lower down there. But I was just really surprised by the Notre Dame, Indiana. You think it has anything to do with being in the same state, or do you think it's just Notre Dame football? Maybe?
I think it's a little bit of both. I think it's Notre Dame, playoff, especially the new format. I guess they're just crazy as hell up there. And then, yeah, you got the Notre Dame versus Indiana. I mean, how far are those schools away from each other?
Not far. Bloomington and South Bend, I would say within 2 hours.
Yeah. So it's probably got a little bit to do with the Indiana thing, but I think it's probably just got more to do with Notre Dame fans are crazy and they're going to fill that place up. That place holds what?
77. I just looked it up. Yeah. Ohio State, at 2-something, I think Ohio State right around 100, don't they? Aren't they up there with Tennessee?
Oh yeah, it's about 100,000.
Yeah, I think so. So
that's
it's
huge.
no, it is. So it's interesting, guys. Just a lot going on in the college football landscape. It's the weekend right before Christmas when that's probably going to be the best weekend, that or the New Year's weekend. But that's going to be a fun weekend. You're going to have 4 awesome college football games that matter a lot. So, like Charlie said, this is the end of college football, so we don't have a lot to go over this week. There is one game, the traditional Army-Navy game. We'll always talk about it on here because we are supporters of the armed forces. The all-time record for those two teams is Navy 62, Army 55, and we have 7 ties. So a quick math, they've played 114 times. Of course, we all know the Army-Navy game. Everybody knows the end of the year.
Where's it at?
It's at Army. It's at Army, yep. So for me, the point spread 6.5 with Army at home. Both teams had really nice teams this year. Army ended the season right around the top 25 mark. There was chance for them to go to the college football playoff. They have one of the top 3 offensive lines in the country. They were actually the finalists for that award. They run the ball and they play a little defense. Nice little team. Navy, on the other hand, they were talked about early as a playoff contender. Their star quarterback, which I think he's a stud, Horvath, went down the last couple games. So they haven't looked as tough. He is their all-everything player. From what I've read and heard, he will be back for this game. And saying that, I hate to pick against Army because I think they got a nice little team. I really believe the game of football is won at the line of scrimmage. But I love what Navy's doing with the spread option. It ain't like a true triple option. It's a spread option. They pass out of it. And I think Horvath he's the general of that. And they're a different team without him.
What's the spread?
It's 6.5, Army at home. I'm going to take Navy plus the 6.5.
Navy's plus 6.5?
Yep.
Oh, I'm on Navy on that too.
The midshipmen.
Yep.
Annapolis.
Give me Navy.
We were down there.
I like David Robinson.
We were. Me and my family, we actually visited the Naval Academy this past year. We went down to D.C. to visit, did a little trip. And when we were down there, we went over to Annapolis. And I told you about it because Charlie lived down that way for a while. But cool little town. A lot of boats. Went over to the Naval Academy, first-class place. Annapolis is really a cool town in itself. We went down there for D.C., but we hung out a lot in Annapolis. We loved it. I'm into history and stuff, and just the whole vibe was really cool. I'd definitely be going with Navy.
Yep, I'm on Navy too. I lived up that way. I worked in Annapolis for a while. I like David Robinson. I can't stand who
Army.
Coach K.
Yeah.
Coach K and Bobby Knight.
Bobby Knight, son.
Kick rocks. Yeah. Navy, baby. Let's go, Navy.
Don't talk about the general. My grandfather, he was the general.
Navy.
Hey, on a side note, I haven't had much time to digest this at all, but it happened right before we started filming tonight. Bill Belichick has been announced as the coach for the North Carolina Tar Heels. He is in college football, so I don't know.
That is surprising to me.
It is.
I heard the talk a few days ago. I did not think it was really going to happen. Yeah, it's for real. He's going to be the coach of North Carolina.
He is. Didn't you say his dad was a coach there, or an assistant?
Said his dad was an assistant back in the 50s.
Coach.
Yeah.
So maybe there's some ties there. Maybe that's where Bill's from originally. I don't know. I have had no time to do research on it. I will say this: college football is becoming more like the pro game with NIL, and used to be you had to recruit and build relationships, and now money talks and bullshit walks. So,
well, he straight up said it the other day that if he got the job, it would be run like a pro program.
But they're starting to all over.
From top to bottom.
Yeah, I think that was a sales pitch. I told you that. I think that was a sales pitch to kind of help recruiting and players that have dreams of the NFL. I actually think he might do good in the NFL.
College. I don't get it. You're going to have jobs. Let's just off the top of my head. I mean, the Bears job's going to be available.
Maybe
the Giants, Jacksonville.
I would rather coach college than pro. I mean, that's just me. I mean, I just would.
Bill Belichick's never coached college.
Maybe
before.
He wants
weird.
Maybe he wants a new challenge. I mean, it's
At
different. It's different.
Yeah, he wants a new challenge. All right, go along with that 24-year-old girlfriend he's got.
Maybe, hey, seriously, maybe he wants to be around the kids to keep him young. It's
oh yeah, she's keeping him real young right now.
Yeah, no, he is. I'm jealous. So
she's keeping him young. I think he's 75 and she's 24. Bill, he's doing something right
That's
now.
right. That's right. Ooh. Just a quick recap of the college. We don't have no more games to go over in college football. Just a quick recap of the games. Georgia and Texas in the SEC championship went into overtime 22-19. That's 2-0 this year for Georgia against Texas. Look, I watched the whole game. Texas outplayed them. They just left too many points on the board. 4 times they were in the red zone area in the first half. They came away with 2 field goals, 1 missed field goal and an interception. So out of 4 times in there, they came away with 2 field goals. Penalties were killer. Georgia actually had an interception that was called back. Georgia's other turnover was right before half, and Texas didn't have no time to do nothing with it. Every mistake they could have made, they made. They just couldn't. Georgia's, I guess, their kryptonite. But in the second half, Carson Beck goes down, which I hated that because I don't think Carson Beck's that good. The backup came in, led them to a touchdown. I don't think they had over 50 yards in the first half with Carson in there. Gunner comes in, leads them to a touchdown, gives them a different look, a little bit more of a runner. Georgia had 4 fumbles in that game, and they didn't lose a fumble. Out of the 4 fumbles they had, just things seemed to go right for Georgia. They're well coached, though. They're well coached.
I'd have been cheering for Arch Manning if I was. I'd have been chanting for Arch Manning if I was a Texas fan.
Yeah.
Ewers continuing to struggle.
Yeah, he's not struggling bad, though. I agree with you. I do. But it ain't
like him. I want to like. I've been.
He's not horrible.
He's not been playing great though, man.
Yeah, but
he missed a lot of big throws.
Sure, but he ain't playing Saturday. Carson Beck bad.
That was probably the game I watched the most of because it was before we actually got over to the casino, and
right.
I was I had it on the phone in the party bus, so he was missing something.
I got you. I don't think he's that had the kind of year I thought he would have either. So I don't think he's horrible enough to bench. And maybe I'm wrong. He might be when you possibly have the best player in college football sitting on the bench. I'd be interested to see how good is
Alabama
Arch.
Did it back in the day.
But yeah, they did, and I thought
almost
that was
very similar situation.
Very similar, and I don't blame them because I think Tua is better than Hurts. You know how I feel about Hurts.
Yeah, but Jalen Hurts was good. I mean, it's not like he wasn't playing.
But
good.
I watched a lot of college football that year, and I think everybody knew he was just kind of a game manager for that team.
That's because Tua was hyped up.
They say when they came out of the locker room for that game, the Alabama players were hyped because they knew Tua was the better player. That's what everybody said. The Alabama players were I think they were down by like 21 or 28 in the national championship game. Saban pulls that at halftime. They come all the way back and win it. It was a different team when he was in the game. I'm telling y'all guys, go watch the Philadelphia Eagles. Don't just look at their wins and losses. Go watch them. Watch Jalen Hurts, what he does. The guy's average. He's a game manager. You said it best last week. He's a game manager.
I'd trade Tua for him right now.
I wouldn't if I was you.
I'd trade Tua for him right now.
Maybe because of Tua's head things, but
that would contribute to it for sure.
Yeah, so I get that. That was an overtime win for Georgia. They won the SEC title and was awarded the number 2 seed overall. Penn State game, that's the Big Ten championship, Penn State, Oregon. Big-time offensive game. Oregon ended up beating them 45-37. Really, the difference in the game was 2 turnovers and penalties by Penn State. Supposedly, I think Oregon had 25 yards in penalties. They just play clean, I guess. Or the officials think they played clean. I don't know. But anyhow, Penn State dropped 2 touchdowns, or they probably would have had over 600 yards and 50 points. They also had an interception, and Oregon returned it all the way to the 1-yard line. So that was the difference in the game. But what I came out of that game with, Charlie, was if you face Oregon, run the ball on them. Run the ball. They cannot stop the run. They're soft. They don't like tackling. What Oregon's really good at, Tez Johnson's a stud. Their wide receiver, the speedster, he was out like the last 2 or 3 games. You better get pressure on the quarterback because if you let him wiggle around for a second, and that's kind of what Dylan Gabriel's good at, you cannot stay with Tez Johnson, or at least Penn State couldn't. Now, I will say, I do think a team like Texas is Oregon's worst nightmare because Texas has really good DBs. Their secondary is the best in the country, and they can get to you with their front 4. I think that's going to be a problem if they have to face Oregon. I'm not sold on Oregon. I wasn't before the game. I thought Warren would have a big game because they don't have the linebackers and safety. I think everything I said was right. They just could not stop Oregon on offense, but Penn State ran the ball all over them. Then they just had a lot of – on 4th and 1, Penn State had stopped them on 4th and 1 on a drive, and you saw there was a lot of points, so any stop would have been great. They stopped them on 4th and 1. A guy barely touched the face mask and got a face mask call. Penn State on a punt, there was unnecessary roughness. The interception returned to the 1, and then they had a missed field goal and 2 touchdown passes. When I tell you Oregon played about as mistake-free as you can play, they did. They didn't hardly make no mistakes, no penalties, which I think is ridiculous, and they only won by 1 score. So I think Oregon is vulnerable. Maybe we're a little bit overhyped. I still think they're a really good team, but That's two teams that ran the ball all over them. Ohio State scored a lot of points on them and had two turnovers, which they gave them points, and they still should have won the game. I definitely think Oregon is vulnerable, maybe even more vulnerable than what I thought before. Did you come out of that game with anything, Charlie?
Yeah, I came out of it with Dan Lanning's pissed that he won the game.
Yeah. Did he say that, or did you thought? No, okay.
I know he is.
No,
I guarantee you he is.
Yeah,
that's the only thing that I come away with from this game. This was the one that I probably saw the least of, but yeah, that's what I come away with is that Penn State got a better setup than Oregon did.
No, they did,
but it doesn't make any sense.
No, and everybody knew it going in.
There's only one thing that Oregon got, and that was the bye. But other than that, Oregon's got to be pissed.
I'll give both teams credit, though, because I was worried about that. Betting that game, I was like, man, where's everybody's mind at? Because everybody knew that going in. Both teams came out and played. So tip my hat to them for not tanking.
Dan Lanning wasn't going to throw a game, but, man, I bet you he's regretting it right now.
Watch Penn State in the tournament because I do think James Franklin is becoming a better football coach. I'm telling you, they got a nice little team. Penn State's got a nice little team. Their loss was against Ohio State this year. They were stopped twice inside the 5 or 10. Now, Ohio State did throw a pick six, which Penn State benefited from, but Penn State was stopped twice inside the 10. And I think Ohio State's really good. I think Ohio State might be the best team in the country. So
here's the problem with Penn State. If they lose one of those first two games, right back to the same. James Franklin can't win the big game.
But I don't.
He has to win two.
Sure, but I don't think his fan base. And I'm with you. I'm so with you, but I'm not sure.
It might not be the fan base, but the national media, they've been on him for years about the big game.
Yeah, but
I'm not sure how Penn State's fans feel. I mean, he's a good coach.
It is.
He's a good coach, but how long do you go with being? Penn State's got high expectations.
They do.
They got a storied history. And they want to win games, and they don't just want to win games. They want to win championships.
No doubt.
So he's probably only got a couple more chances to not win that big one. So I just think that especially with the setup that he's got here with SMU and Boise, don't get me wrong. I think either one of those two teams could beat Penn State.
Boise can't beat them. SMU could beat them.
I think the pressure is on Penn State big time.
Let me tell you who I think not to go back into it. You know who the biggest fraud in this tournament is?
The biggest fraud?
Yeah, it's Boise. I'm telling you. Listen, I like Boise.
It might end up being.
I like Genty, but listen, I've watched them as a team. They're not that big.
As much as you've dogged SMU, and
they're pretty good though. SMU's pretty good.
You've even stuck Arizona State with the pitchfork a couple of times.
Oh,
I ain't said nothing about Boise. Yeah, Boise
I think they're the frauds in the tournament.
I don't disagree.
They are. I'm telling you, it's not the Boise that you're used to seeing. They were real gimmicky and they were kind of ahead of the game on some stuff. As far as offensive stuff, they're not that team no more. They're a line it up, smash mouth team. They will not be able to do that against real competition. They will not be able to do it. I'm telling you, Genty will be rough. I like Genty. But I'm telling you, I watched them. Their offensive linemen are not that big. They're just not. Yes, they ran on Oregon, but I'm going to tell you that was early in the year, and Oregon had some injuries. But let me tell you, what I learned is anybody can run in on Oregon. Penn State had 8.7 yards per carry against Oregon. And against Wisconsin, when Oregon almost lost, Wisconsin ran the ball all over them. If you face Oregon, run the ball and run it down their throats. We'll step over to the next game in the ACC title game. SMU was 31, Clemson 34. Clemson earned their way into the tournament without beating a top 25 team all year. SMU made a lot of mistakes in that game. A lot. When I went back and started analyzing, digging into the numbers, man, there was beginning of the game, there was fumbles and interceptions, and Clemson had a lot of points given to them from turnovers. A lot. I think there was 3 or 4 scores off turnovers where they were set up with either pick sixes or really good field position. SMU outplayed them by the numbers. SMU had 2 turnovers. Clemson had none. Looks like Clemson played a clean game and barely beat them. Look, I like Clemson, but I'm not sure how good Clemson is. Did you get a chance to watch any of that game?
No, that was another one. That was at the same time, wasn't it? That was the same time as the Oregon game. That was a late one. Yeah, I didn't watch it.
Did you see how it ended? So SMU was down by like 20 early. Well, they come back to tie it up. That's actually that over and under that beat me out, that over under parlay. They came back, or I would have won all those over unders. But anyhow, they came back. It was tied with 16 seconds to go. Everybody thought it was going to be overtime. They returned it to the 45-yard line. They kicked it to them. They returned it to the 45-yard line with 16 seconds to go. They were able to get in field goal range and hit like a 57-yarder to win it with 16 seconds to go. So why you kick it to somebody?
Doesn't surprise me that Dabo and Clemson got it done.
No, me neither.
It really doesn't.
Me neither. And plus, they were really close to home. It's almost like karma. I think the football gods might have gave Clemson one there. The only other game was the Mountain West Championship. That was the Boise we were just talking about, Charlie. Boise 21, UNLV 7. Genty, he carries a lot.
UNLV had their chances in that game. I
did
watch.
I didn't watch none of that one.
They had their chances in that game. I'm not saying they should have won, but they definitely had some chances. They had a long play. I think they got 50 or 60-yard play. Guy got tackled at the 2 or 3 yard line. They ended up turning it over or missing a field goal or something. I can't even remember what happened. Turnover on downs or something.
Yeah.
So I mean, and there was a couple other chances. That was actually in the first half, but they had some other chances too. Boise did not impress me.
What's Boise going to do if they face a defense that don't allow them to run the ball? That's going to be a question. They'll be in trouble. So, and there was one more other game. Arizona State 45. They stayed hot. Iowa State 19. Now, I did go back and dig into the numbers in this game. I think Arizona State won the game, and I think they took it to them. But Iowa State made a lot of mistakes that led to a big lead for Arizona State. There was a lot of turnovers, kind of mid-game. It was kind of even, almost a halftime. But Iowa State had 4 turnovers. Arizona State had none. But, that's on them. But as you're trying to analyze these things, that's the things I try to keep in mind. But Arizona State's coming into the tournament hot, so it gives them a puncher's chance at that point.
Scatty Bo, I missed my plus 350 to win the damn Big 12.
Yep. So the only other news on college football, guys, have you had a chance to keep up with the Heisman situation at all, Charlie?
I saw it was. We know who's going to win. Travis Hunter.
Hunter, yeah. Right now he's minus 4,000, pretty much.
He should be
too. Yeah, and Genty's second at 11-1, and then you got honorable mention. They are going to the award. Gabriel and Cam Ward, they're both 400 and 500 to 1. It looks like it's over, guys. Travis Hunter, he plays both ways. I don't think he plays against the toughest competition, but I don't think there was nobody out there that deserved it that did play against tough competition. So I think he's rightfully the person that should win it.
Nothing against Dylan Gabriel, but he should not have been in that 4. I do think Shador Sanders should have been in there. If you look at his stats, he's second, I think, in the country in yards, third in touchdowns, or maybe flip-flop the other way. And then he was surprisingly like second in the country, actually pretty much first in the country, because first was Graham Mertz, who only played half of the year, but in completion percentage.
Yeah.
So I think the second in touchdowns, third in yards, and second in completion percentage in the country is pretty daggone good. I don't know how you leave that out of the Heisman race, but nothing against Dylan Gabriel, but I do think Shador should have been in there.
I think I've always, in years past, the Heisman's been like the best quarterback on the best team.
Oh yeah, there's no doubt that's why Gabriel got in, because they're undefeated and number 1. So it is what it is, but I do think Shador got snubbed a little bit.
When I went back, you told me that about Shador, and so I was just interested. I have not watched him a lot, Shador, so it's hard for me to give opinion. Either way, I did go back and look at him, and you're right on those stats, but he does have a QBR of like 78, which is like 16th best in the college football, and he takes a lot of sacks. And there's a lot of people says he takes a lot of sacks so we don't miss like completions and stuff like that. Is that true? Not true? I don't know. I haven't had a chance to watch him. But my only argument,
who the hell knows what QBR
you don't.
is anyways?
Yeah.
What is QBR?
I guess it's an advanced quarterback stat.
Exactly.
I don't know.
I don't know what the hell it is.
But I'll say this, though.
Never have done one.
With Colorado having 2 of the best players in the country, and everybody, I think, kind of agree with that. For them to have the 2 of the best players in the country and play the schedule they play, they probably should have had a lot better year. I mean, one of them plays both sides. Why weren't they a little better? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know how I feel.
They had a decent year. It fell off a little bit at the end, but they were all right.
But they did.
I do agree. I mean, 2 players aren't going to do it all in
almost 3 because he plays both ways.
Well, pretty much, yeah.
That's amazing. That is amazing. I'm interested to see what Travis Hunter will be in the NFL.
So me and you were talking about that last night, and as soon as we got off the phone, I seen an interview with him. He was talking to Scott Van Pelt. He said he's willing to do whatever the team wants him to do next year. Right. He said he'll play whatever the team wants, whatever's best for the team. But he did say, I would sure hope they would give me a shot on both sides of the ball.
That's right.
And he openly on ESPN said, I'm the best player on both sides of the ball every time I step on the field.
I just don't know. To me, listen, I know he does it in college. I think it's awesome that he does it in college. But in today's NFL, I mean, these guys are – I've listened to offensive coordinators, and as they're calling plays and designing plays, there's certain plays that have no reason to go this way towards this receiver. But they run they want those receivers to run really hard routes to work that cornerback over there to make sure they keep him tired. And these coaches today are trying to take advantage of all that. When Dion did it back in the day, maybe things weren't as advanced. But to me, whatever he's more valuable in, I almost think you got to play him in that alone. That's my opinion, because he would be too valuable at that point. Do you want, if he's a shutdown corner, do you want him running routes on offense and wearing himself down? Yeah, he can do it in college in the Big 12, but can he do it in the NFL? And does that not affect his game? Now, if it don't, I'm all for him playing it. But I'd like to think in the NFL, it will affect it. In college, and especially in the conference he plays in, he's not going up against high-level athletes. NFL, you're going up against the best. But if he can do it, my hat will go right off to him. And I have nothing but respect for the guy, because anybody who wants to play both ways, he don't have to do that. So anybody that wants to do that, mad respect for him. And
he'll get his chance.
He will. And I've actually been becoming more of a Dion fan as a coach, because I like some of the stuff he's saying about the NIL and the portal and just some things he's saying. I'm really kind of buying into what he's saying and what his views are on it. So starting to become more of a Dion fan as a coach. So with college football, that's all we got, Charlie. Next week, we will try to do – I already got one put together, but we'll go over it next week. Charlie, start putting together a college football All-American team. I've kind of put mine together. I might dabble with changing a few things a little bit. A college football All-American team, what you think it should be, not who you think's the best players, not just what consensus is. But I went with a lot of guys you'll recognize, but I went outside the box on a couple guys too. They're all very high-level players, though. I didn't put a bum in there just because I liked him. But, just somebody I like, and I think maybe he's just as good as the guy that's maybe getting all the credit. So.
Anthony's got Brock Vandergriff on there.
Dude, you're a hater.
Who's the coach? Stoops?
No, I didn't. Hey, so let me give you a little preview of mine. A little preview. I went with a freshman quarterback, and you know this because I've already told you. DJ Lagway. DJ Lagway.
Lagway's the quarterback, and Stoops is the coach. And Lagway's going to hate it because he's going to have to hand the ball off too much. It's like, Coach, I want to throw deep.
That's what we need to get back to. We need to get back to handing the ball off. And instead of spending our money on quarterbacks, get back to offensive line and running the ball. I think that's what we're going to do. We'll talk more about that in weeks to come.
All right, before we get to the NFL, real quick, college basketball, as we speak, Kentucky game just started. They are playing Colgate.
Is that the toothpaste company?
Yeah,
okay.
Yep, Colgate. But Saturday is the big game, Kentucky against Louisville. But before we get into that, Kentucky did come up with another big win. Did you see?
Yes,
did you get to see any
the
of
very
it?
end when we were getting out of the Penn State Oregon game, we were in our car. We just got in the car. My son's phone was the only one that had the YouTube TV set up to it because I got a new one. I hadn't downloaded the app yet. And so we were trying to scramble to get it. His phone was dead. We're trying to get a charge on it. We ended up picking up overtime of the Kentucky win. So
yes. Down 16 in the first half.
Yes, sir.
Down 16, maybe even at halftime, I think we were down 16. Anthony, I think I might already be ready to put up Mark Pope against any coach in the country.
Oh, he's good.
When it comes to X's and O's, in-game adjustments, halftime adjustments.
He's good.
I might put him up against anybody out there.
Listen, I take nothing away from the guy because I do think he's doing a hell of a job as a coach. And he put this team together, but I'm going to tell you, it's a nice team, man. When you watch them, they look like good ball players. I mean, they just do. They look like good ball players.
Mark Pope is a basketball guru.
No, he is. I agree.
He's an analytics guy. Dude, I love this team.
Yep.
We don't have any
they're good,
big-time players.
Yeah, but they're good. But they're good college basketball players.
I love our team.
Yeah.
We just don't have any big names.
Sure.
We have a bunch of guys that seem like they know how to play their role.
They do. They're just not great NBA prospects because of their size or stuff like that. But as far as college you're dealing with a lot of 6-year seniors now with the COVID year and stuff. So more so than ever, and you'll never see it again, you're probably seeing more upperclassmen than you've ever seen. You're dealing with 6-year seniors. I bet you we got a couple 6-year seniors on this team. I don't know for a fact, but I would say we probably have a couple 6-year seniors. We got some grown men.
The two best teams that we've played so far, we started slow, fell behind, and won both games.
They did. I did see both teams shot bad from three. I know we rely on third.
We have not shot well in the last 3 or 4 games from three. So
the Zag shot.
I'm hoping we step it up here tonight against Colgate. Big win, another big win. Now we did lose. We did lose last week to Clemson at Clemson on the road. Tough matchup. Another game where I thought Pope made some adjustments and showed some grit as a coach. Man, he is. I just love what he does with the changing up the defenses. I don't know if you've noticed, but he changes the defense a lot. A couple possessions here, a couple possessions there, switching from man to zone. I actually even heard he had him changing from zone to man in the middle of possessions last game against Gonzaga, which probably messed them up a little bit.
Did you see, like, in that game at Clemson, I thought the atmosphere at Clemson was off the hook. I thought
it was.
The roof. That's what Alabama faces every week. So what they have in the in football, what the ACC I've always thought the ACC play overall is the best basketball conference, and they have those hostile crowds. A lot of them in the ACC. It's different going into those environments, dude. It is different. That was a hostile environment. I don't know how many points it was worth. It was Kentucky coming into town. Dude, they were out for blood. You seen it. I mean, the place was rocking.
Probably the biggest game they've had there, non-conference game they've had there in a long time.
And they're in the ACC, and they've had a good start to the year. The place was rocking, and that's what Alabama faces every week.
Speaking of the best conference, everybody's been talking here in the past week or so about the SEC. Have you heard this?
They're the best this year, it looks like. Yeah this year.
Look. Slow your roll, okay? All you national media, all you SEC homers, y'all know we're SEC fans here. Slow your roll, because I've heard this shit before with SEC basketball. I've heard it before in the past handful of years. SEC's this, SEC's that. Now they're saying the SEC this year might be the best conference ever in the history of basketball. Slow your roll.
It's never been this good, old Charlie. This year, like just by rankings alone, I think we got 7. We've had good years but I've always felt like the ACC overall has been better. But we've had some years where we argue we're better. But this year, man, we are loaded.
And I hope it stays that way, and I hope it is. But I'm just saying, I have heard this before. I've heard, at this same time of year, right here in the middle of December or at the end of the year, there's going to be 9 SEC teams in. There's going to be 10 SEC teams in. Now they're saying 12. Now they're saying there's going to be 12 SEC teams in the I hope there is. But I've seen this shit before, and it rolls around to the end of the year, and we got 5 or 6, and a lot of these teams fall off. So, Look, I hope they don't, but I've heard it before. Slow your roll. I don't want to hear it right now in December. Let's get through January and let some of them beat up on each other a little bit, see how good some of these teams really are. I'm not saying they are or they aren't, but I've heard it before, and I won't believe it till I see it with some of these teams.
I think if you had me guess, just the NIL money and the TV deals, that's probably what is allowing the SEC to be so good. You know, they're reinvesting that money, and basketball, it's a lot cheaper to put together a team, they say. A really good team in football is $15 to $20 million. A really good team in basketball, they say, is $3 to $4 million to put together for the year. So, maybe some of these SEC teams are taking all this TV money and putting it into their basketball programs. I don't know what it is, but I think I've seen, is it 7 of the top 10 right now are in the SEC? It's some kind of crazy number that.
Yeah, something like that. We got a handful in the top 10. We got maybe 9 or something, 10 in the top 25.
I think it's 7 in the top 10.
And they're projecting 12 to the tournament, which would be the most any conference has ever got. So
you think the NIL has anything to do with that, Charlie? Just because they have the SEC schools typically have a lot of NIL money?
I mean, it could.
Yeah.
It very well could, but the SEC's been trending up in basketball in the last 10 years. Really,
they're investing.
I think it's got a lot stronger in the last decade. And I hope it is everything that they say that it's going to be this year. I really do. I'm a little skeptical.
In my lifetime, I would have to say, the Big East used to be tough.
The Big East was awesome back in the day.
No, it was. But I'd say my whole life, if you just said the best conference of my life of watching college basketball, as much as I hate to say it, I'd have to say it's the ACC. year in and year out, the ACC's been the toughest. The ACC, the Big East had their years. The Big Ten have had some really good years. I would say the SEC's towards the bottom of the Power 5 or the Power 4, whatever you want to call it. If I'm being honest, I don't think it's a huge drop-off like it is in football, but I do think that
over history, over the past 10 years, like I said, SEC has trended up in the last 10 years or so.
Yeah.
Kansas got beat, lost to Missouri. So we'll see how good Missouri is, but they won that game by 9. I guess that's probably a little bit of a rivalry, isn't it?
Yeah,
Kansas, Missouri, yeah. It's a little bit of a rivalry. Duke beat U of L 76-65. Louisville actually had a little bit of a lead there in the first. I think they were up by 4 or 5 at halftime, but they had I want to say they were close to up 8 or 9 or 10 there in the first half. They played pretty good, but Duke wore them down. U of L's got some injuries right now, so they do have a little bit of excuse, but they tried to hang tough there against Duke. But
the big guy Louisville had that got hurt, my wife's cousin called him Birdman with the blonde hair.
He does look like Birdman.
Dude, he's the king of the no-look pass. Every time I've seen him, he was throwing a no-look pass. He's a big guy.
Goofy looking.
Dude, I liked his game. Oh, he's the one that was out for –
They lost him. Birdman, that's funny.
They lost him for the year, but I tell you, I like the dude's game. I mean, no-look passer all the time. It's like dude was the king of the no-look pass. I like the guy's game. They lost him for a year. That's sad.
So, who you got this weekend, Anthony?
For me, it's real simple.
Well, real quick, before you do that, guess the spread. What do you think the spread's going to be?
Who's home?
It's at Kentucky.
At Kentucky. I want to say Kentucky is -10.
Yeah, I was going to say, if it's not 10, I'm all over it. We're going to be way too much for Louisville, especially with the injuries they got, and it's at home. I think we rout them this year.
They're up 12-0 on the toothpaste company right now.
Yep, 12-0 lead.
Yep.
12-0 lead, 31.5 point favorites tonight.
When I think of Colgate, Charlie, I always think of my childhood growing up in Louisville. The big clock over in Indiana across from downtown Louisville. Yep. Remember the clock?
Yeah.
That was the old Colgate clock. They
Sure
had right across from downtown Louisville, they had a Colgate plant. You know, it's not there no more. But they had this old clock, and it was, I guess, to let the workers know what time it was for lunch and stuff in the old manufacturing days. And everybody always remembers that clock. It was the old Colgate clock.
One more quick thing. Did you see this? Juan Soto?
Yeah, I did. New York Mets?
Yeah, did you see how much?
Yep. It was the Yankees offered him
15 years.
Yeah. One of them like a year less for about the same amount of money. Like one was 15, one was 16 for about the same amount of money.
I don't know what the Yankees offered him, but apparently the Yankees were mistreating his family, some of his family members and some of his people.
Well, I don't know about that. I know the Yankees said they were proud of the offer. They said that they were proud that the ownership or Cashman really dug in the bag to really try to get him.
I think it really did come down to that. I think it came down to there was a couple instances this year where his family members and maybe like his valet driver or somebody was left outside in the rain or something by the organization. 2 or 3 instances, I think, that he said that he wasn't happy with. Regardless, 15 years. For one, who the hell signed somebody for 15 years?
I wouldn't. There's no way. I think you're just asking for trouble. I think these college football teams and programs are learning from their mistakes on these longer contracts.
The 10 years is crazy enough.
Yes.
15, $765 million.
I guess he wants to be a star. I would say he might not admit this, but he probably wants to get away from Judge and be his own guy.
I mean, maybe.
Maybe he thinks he's better than Judge. I don't know.
Maybe.
Yeah.
He could be.
But, for the Yankees, I know
pretty damn good.
I know the Yankees went out. I think they just signed 2 like really high-level pitchers or getting ready to sign 2 high-level pitchers. So I guess they're taking that money. Look, I think baseball's winning in pitching. They don't sell tickets because they only pitch once every 3 or 4 games. But pitching wins baseball games. So.
I'm just glad he's not a Yankee anymore.
I got you.
Glad he's not a Yankee.
Spend your money on pitching, though. I really believe that's the spot you should spend your money.
And glad he didn't go to the Dodgers because that would have been ridiculous to add him to that roster. So the Mets, I like that. I kind of like the Mets a little bit. Cheer for the Mets a little bit.
Is he making more than Ohtani now, Charlie? I know you're a baseball guy.
Making more than anybody. That's the biggest contract in the history of sports.
As we speak, Kentucky. I know it's Colgate, but I guess they're up 17-0. They might be up 20-0 here. Mark Pope might have to call the Dogs off at the 10-minute mark in the first half.
Don't do that because I'm going to go ahead and release it on the episode here. I did take a minus 31.5.
You just jinxed them.
Oh, okay. It was just a small mess around bet. It was just a small mess around bet. They might not score, Anthony. We're probably going to win like 112-0.
You think Colgate? You think they've handed out their Christmas bonus at the plant yet? I don't think this is like the manufacturer Colgate. I think this is their men's team.
We're getting down to almost 13 minutes left in the first half, and they have not scored yet.
Yeah, it's crazy.
The only reason I did it is because their record's like 2-8, and we were coming off of 2 really hard games coming home. I figured we'd just roll. Oh, there we go. Colgate got their first bucket, 17-3.
Charlie jinxed them.
I did jinx them. They'll probably win by 30 now, but it's all good. All right, on to the NFL. Let's just get right into these games for this week, Anthony. I didn't write a recap or anything of last week. We can look right here, though. There was some good games.
There was. Bills, you had the Bills and Rams back and forth on offense.
That was probably the game of the year.
That was a hard game for me.
To be honest, that was the game of the year.
I like both those teams. I did bet the Rams and end up having a good afternoon, not a good early part. I think I went like 2-2 early, but the afternoon I went 4-0, baby. I had the Rams, the Chargers, the 49ers, and the Bengals got lucky and had them. So I did have that hedge, though, at the end. So.
Yeah, Rams and Buffalo. That was game of the year. Really back and forth game. Both quarterbacks showing off. Josh Allen is freaking Superman.
Yeah,
dude.
he is. Because they don't have a lot on offense.
So now he broke another record. You see, first. What did he have? He had 3 passing, 3 rushing. What did he have? Is that right? Yeah, I think that's right.
Yeah.
First player ever in the history of NFL with 3 passing touchdowns and 3 rushing touchdowns in the same game.
Look, the guys I like, I actually think they're probably the 3 best.
Unbelievable.
It is. I think they're probably the 3 best quarterbacks in the league. In my opinion, just my opinion, I don't even think it's close. Top 2 quarterbacks in it. Maybe you can put.
I'm gonna tell you right now,
Josh
Allen's the best quarterback.
He is. I agree. I agree. But I tell you what, Burrow's pretty tough. But I like the Josh Allen pick. You know, I'm a Josh Allen guy. Burrow's pretty tough, old man. Their defense ain't no good. They've caught a lot of bad breaks this year. But go watch the Bengals, man. Him and Chase are doing something special up there themselves. But, yeah, I agree, Josh Allen. I might take Josh Allen a little bit not over him, but Burrow's pretty special himself. But to compare them other guys in the same league with those guys, I'm not saying how good their teams are. I'm just saying how good they are. Them guys, if you watch them, if you just watch them and you don't take no bias and you just honestly assess the game and what they are, you don't look at who they are, what's their record, you just watch them a couple games, they're the 2 best quarterbacks in the NFL.
Detroit snuck by Green Bay on Thursday night, got the win, continue their roll of I think 11 straight wins. Detroit wins this week and they might win out.
Yeah, they might. They're good.
I'm serious. They got the Bills this week, but if they win, if they beat I'm not saying that they have an easy schedule on the way out because they played Minnesota in final game of the year. But I think if they get past Buffalo this week, I think Detroit wins out.
I will say I think they get beat this week. Oh, we'll get into that. But I think Detroit. Listen, I like them. I like them a lot. But I do think they're starting to be vulnerable. I really do.
They're on a 10 or 11 game win streak. They're bound to lose one. So.
Yeah, but it's just watching them. I don't think they're as dominant maybe as I once thought, or maybe they were. Maybe I still think they're crazy good.
And then Kansas City.
Luckiest team in the NFL history.
Did they double doink it, or they doinked it, or I fell asleep?
If Bengals are the team, if the Bengals are a team that it caught no breaks this year, I've never listened. It's funny now. At this point, it's funny, right? It just is. My son's a big Kansas City fan.
15 straight one-score games.
They're blocking field goals. They had a field goal go in from a doink. They fumbled, snap. I mean, it's almost surreal, is it not, Charlie?
It's crazy.
All jokes aside,
no,
it's crazy. It's crazy.
Catch up with them at some point.
It's whether it's good or bad. They are what they are, and I'm not saying they're good or bad, but
there's a luck factor here. I mean, there's a luck factor in any sports that you play, and they've got very lucky the last handful of weeks. They just have.
But you take a team, and they're my team. But you take a team like the Bengals, dude. They've caught so many. They finally caught a break, but they've caught so many bad breaks this year. There really ain't a lot of difference, but their records say otherwise.
But I will say this. Game on the line, big-time game. I need one drive. Guess who the...
My bad. I just got a fucking Charlie horse.
Did you? Got him a Charlie horse.
Dude, I worked hard today.
Got him a Charlie horse. Yeah, do your thing. Rub that thing out. He's over here rubbing one out. Anthony is rubbing one out right now.
You know when they hit you, they just hit you. You know
I done forgot what I was even talking about.
Sorry, dude. I can't hold them in. It's one of them deals.
Oh, so one big game on the line. I need one drive. Kansas City's the best team in the NFL.
Not their offense.
When they need to get it done, when they need to get it done and win a game, they get it done.
The luckiest team.
Kansas City's the best getting it done team in the NFL. Are they the best team? Absolutely not. But when it comes time to go win a game, they figure out how to go win a game.
No doubt.
All right, let's get on to these games for this week. First game. Did you get that thing rubbed out?
I did, man. I
Was
had
that a hamstring?
Yeah, right up underneath.
Yeah, those
there.
are the worst.
Yeah, it's.
You ever got a double one at the same time?
No.
Both hamstrings at
No.
the same time?
I'll be honest with you. You know, I'm a contractor, so I work hard. I would say like 80% of my cramps come during the special time with the lady friend.
Yeah,
there,
that's
dude.
not funny.
Dude, that's the worst,
It
dude.
is the
That's the worst. You can be like, everything be going good. You know, it's when you're married, it don't always happen as often as you'd like it, and everything's right. And then all of a sudden, right in you're in the middle of the action. I mean, I've been running through the house butt naked before, like wanted to get rid of it quick. I've had to hop in the shower real quick because that works for me sometimes. It's horrible, dude. God, there's nothing worse than. And my wife, whatever, I ain't going no farther with it. But
the hamstrings are the worst too.
Yeah.
If you've ever had a Charlie horse in your hamstring, you know the feeling. It's bad. I remember the first time I ever got one when I was a kid. I thought my freaking hamstring was ripping off my body. I didn't know what was going on.
Dude, they'll freak you out if you've never had one.
All right, Thursday night, Rams at San Francisco.
Rams are getting hot.
They are getting hot. San Francisco's -3, and I want to know why.
Because I do think the 40. Listen, I know it's just a game or so, but
Why? Because they beat the shit out of the Bears?
I know, but their offense hasn't been showing that, and they just haven't. I feel like maybe the
It's
49ers.
the Bears.
Don't you feel like everybody's been waiting for the 49ers to come alive? Over?
Yeah, that was a perfect game for them against one of the worst teams in the NFL.
Yeah, but the Bears has a pretty good little defense. They have a pretty good little defense. I don't think the Bears are the worst team in the NFL. I don't think they're good, but I do think they have a good little defense. They're not horrible.
No way.
I got you.
No
You're
way.
not buying it.
No, Rams are hot.
I like the
This
Rams
is
too.
This is an overreaction right here. There's no way with the way that San Francisco's been playing. I get it that they're at home. The Rams have beat San Francisco the last 3 times they've played. They're also 3-0 against the spread in those 3 games. I like McVay over Shanahan. San Francisco, they're just because they beat the Bears.
I think it's one of them deals, Charlie. Listen, I had 49.
They're still beat up. They're still missing both
Yes.
of their
Trust
top
me, I
running
already
backs.
know.
They got too many injuries. I'm all over the Rams in this. This is
yes.
my lock 'em, sock 'em, rock 'em, don't cock block 'em lock of the week, dude. No bullshit. Give me the Rams.
So, I got futures on the Rams to win the Super Bowl, so I like the Rams. I'm with you. I do think it's overreaction because everybody's been waiting for the 49ers to turn the corner. They did have a good game last week, but that's no guarantee they're going to have a good game this week. I didn't get to watch the game. Maybe Chicago gave them some of it. I don't know what happened. I will say this. I bet the 49ers a decent amount this year, and they've let me down a decent amount. I did have them last week, though, and that was part of that 4-0 deal. I didn't even know I had them until the game was over. That's horrible. I got looking at my tickets. I was like, I'm glad they won.
they did. They routed them too. I kind of like Chicago in that game, but you know why? Because of the coaching change. I thought they'd play for the interim coach. Nope, they're still the same shitty ass Bears. They're terrible.
Let me ask you this.
San Francisco gets no credit for that win to me. None.
I've told you, and I've told the listeners on here how rough the 49ers have been to me this year. Why am I that stubborn? I won with them, but why do I continue to bet teams that's stubbornness, dude. That is stubbornness.
I have said that I was done with Kansas City the last 3 weeks. I bet them again this week. I'm an idiot.
Ooh.
I did.
I'm with you.
Minus 3 fella. What was the score at halftime of that game? Kansas City was winning.
Yeah.
I fell asleep. I was feeling good about my bet.
Yeah.
Woke up, looked at my text, and I'm in a group text, and the last text said, Kansas City kills me.
Go Chargers.
And I look, and they win by 2.
Yeah, they beat the Chargers.
Yeah,
I
I'm
hated
done
that.
with Kansas
Yeah.
City. So who you got? You got the Rams?
Yep. So on a side note, Charlie, as we are going through these NFL games, I don't know if everybody heard about it. It was all over local news and just national news. It made ESPN. One of the largest bets in regular season history came in last week. It came from this great state of Kentucky, our home state, which I'm surprised because we don't have as many millionaires as a lot of, but I guess we got gamblers. But it's one of the largest bets in regular season history. And I can respect that because if I was going to make a crazy large bet, I'd want it to be a playoff game. I'd want to make sure they weren't cheating. But one of the largest bets in regular season history, they bet on the Philadelphia Eagles against the Carolina Panthers. No point spread, money line. I think they were minus $7. They ended up winning it was risking $3.1 million to win $600,000 or $700,000 or something crazy like that.
Man, that dude's asshole puckered up. Did you see the end of the game?
No, but I heard.
Carolina dropped a touchdown to win the game with, 30 seconds left.
I'm going to tell you that if Carolina would have won that game, you would have never convinced me that the NFL wasn't set up like they. So they didn't. So,
There's always a game like that.
I know,
here
but
and there
it
where
just
you're
happened to be when
how
they
the
bet
hell?
$3.1 million, one of the largest bets in regular season history. I mean, a lot would have been lining up, but they didn't. So, my faith is still there. My hope is still there.
Yeah, Carolina should have won that.
You imagine how nervous he was. They said he dropped the game-winning touchdown at the end.
He did.
Dude, that dude, he wasn't even watching.
I
You
was
think he was watching?
Huh?
You think he was watching?
Oh, yeah, he was watching.
Because if he
I
bet
guarantee
that,
he was watching.
I like the hope that he has.
He might have been at the game.
He at least had to have $20 million if he bet $3 million, right? Would you say? Not unless he's crazy.
I would hope so.
There's only a handful of people it probably could be.
I'd hope he'd have more than that if he bet 3. I'd hope he'd have more than 20.
I bet you there's a group of only 20 people it could be. They, could bet 3 and have more. Like you said, I'd think you have more than 20 or 30.
I would hope so. If you're betting 3, I'd hope you got more than 20.
I heard it started off as $1 million bet at the Circa. He asked him if he could bet more, and he did. You know what? Oh, he won $700,000. So.
Oh, so he was in Vegas watching that.
Yeah.
Yeah. My man was when that pass went up. Oh, yeah, I bet you his asshole puckered so hard.
Do you think the cheating thoughts went through his head the whole game as the game was staying close? They're screwing me. They're screwing me.
Everything went through that man's
Yes,
head.
they did.
Shit,
Yeah.
Everything, every conspiracy theory he could think of.
Oh, it was going through my head for the guy. Come on, dude, don't scream like this. Don't scream like this.
All right, next game, Miami at Houston. Houston is minus 2.5, coming off of a bye, which I do not like. 4-2 at home. Miami they're not good on the road here. They're 2-4 on the road. But I'm gonna tell you what, Miami offense is coming alive. Defense is still a little bit shaky, still letting up a little bit too many points. But the offense is coming alive. I worry about this game because Houston's coming off of a bye. Houston's been playing a little bit down in the last few weeks, though. They've won 2 of their last 3. If I'm not mistaken, but they have not played great in those games, and they're giving up some points. I think this is trending towards a high-scoring game. I kind of want to take Houston in this game, but look, Miami's playing for their season pretty much. We have to win this game. It's indoors. I'm going to roll with Miami. I'm going to roll with Miami to get it done. It worries me a little bit because we almost lost to the Jets. We did get a little bit lucky in that game last week to pull that out against the Jets. I don't think we ever should have been in the position that we were in at the end of that game, but we did get it done. And I just think that Miami's going to try to get it together here. And I'm going to predict if we win this game, Miami wins this game, they might just win out too. Who else did I just say might win out if they win?
Detroit.
Yeah, Miami might win out if they win this game. I'm gonna take my boys here.
I'm
plus 2.5. I like it. I like Miami to get the win here. I think they're gonna pull out a big win here and try to figure out a way to sneak their asses in the playoffs and then get beat by 30.
I actually like Miami a lot in this game. I've been selling Houston all year. which has been good. I've been right about that one, wrong about others, but they're 5-8 against the spread. Houston, I think they're a decent team. Don't get me wrong there.
Put
I think
up a lot of yards last week. I think Stroud had like 300 and Mixon had 100.
Who'd they play last week?
Over 100. No, not last week. 2 weeks ago. It's like Jacksonville. Or something.
Jacksonville. Everybody scores.
I think it was Jacksonville, maybe.
Yeah, but yeah, in saying that, look, I think Miami's got a solid little team. I took the Jets last week. They end up pushing. I think Jets have a good pass defense. You've heard me say it all year. The hot sauce Gardner. I think that guy's legit. One of the best cornerbacks I've ever seen.
He's out. He was out last week.
Was he? Okay.
He was out. He was out last week.
But I like, the Jets have had a good pass defense. That's what's kind of kept them in games.
Terrible.
I thought that was a good matchup for the Jets against the Dolphins, and really they end up pushing, but that really was kind of a bad beat if you bet the Jets. Not beat, but bad push. But in saying that, I like the Dolphins this week. I think the Texans are overvalued by people. I just do, and they're going to hot weather. The Dolphins will be fine. I think the Dolphins' biggest problem.
No, it's at Houston.
I know, but it'll be warmer weather. It's in Texas.
Yeah,
I think the Dolphins like it warm. They just when I look at them, they seem like
a dome, aren't they?
Houston's
in a dome.
Yeah, but it just they look like a dome kind of warm weather team. I just think Miami's kryptonite. They don't like it cold, and they don't like that stuff. So. That's my opinion. I mean, I don't know if it's right or wrong, but
it's right.
When I watch them in cold,
right.
They look like a fish out of water. They're of course they're the Dolphins, a fish, but they look like a fish out of water when they're in the cold. Man, they don't belong out there. The colors don't belong. I mean, it's just Tua's from Hawaii, I think. I mean, it's Tyreek Hill's from Miami.
Hawaii to Alabama.
Yeah, Waddle's from Alabama.
Miami,
yeah,
to Kansas City Game of Thrones last year.
Yeah, but they're not good in the cold. So.
All right, next game of the week. Actually, there's two. I'd say there's co-games of the week this week, but this is one of them. Buffalo at Detroit. Going to be a hell of a game. Actually, my cousin's going to this game. Bought tickets a couple weeks ago, so he will be in the house. Another ticket that was not cheap, but that'll be a hell of a game to go to, man. I mean, if you're going to pick a game to go to, and this time of the year. Once we know it's 10-3 against 12-1. I mean, it's going to be Buffalo's coming off of a loss too. I do think that's a tough spot. Detroit with the 11-game win streak. Buffalo coming off of a loss. Everything tells me to take Buffalo. Buffalo, they're going to lose 2 in a row. Detroit, they're going to win 12 in a row. Detroit's bound to lose one. But look, I'm going to take Detroit here. I'm going to take Detroit. Buffalo's coming off of a short week. Or no, not a short week. They played it was a 4:00 game.
Yep. It was 4:00.
Buffalo and the Rams. That was 4:00.
Yep.
But it was in LA. Now they're traveling to Detroit. Detroit is actually coming off of a little bit of extra rest, right?
Mm-hmm.
They played on Thursday night. So yeah, I like Detroit with a little bit of extra rest at home. Buffalo, second road game in a row. I think I looked at their schedule either earlier today or yesterday, and I want to say there was only one other time this year that they played back-to-back road games, and I think they actually played 3 road games in a row.
They did.
Lost 2 of them to good teams. Who'd they play you looking at it right there?
Yeah.
3-game road stretch earlier in the year. Who'd they play? I know
the Ravens, Texans, Jets.
So they lost to the Ravens and the Texans. But that's right.
They gave that Texans game away. Now the Ravens, put it to them, but the Texans game, they really I forget what it was, but I remember them literally. It was a bad beat.
Yeah, this is a tough game. I'm not betting this game. There's no way I'm touching this game. I'm going to sit back and enjoy this one. But for the pick here, I'm going to take Detroit just strictly off of a little bit of extra rest and Buffalo with 2 tough road games in a row. So I'm going to take Detroit.
I'm going to go with the Bills. I actually like it a decent amount. The Bills, they just got done with the Rams. The Rams are, in my opinion, I think the Rams are good when they're right. It was a tough game, but the Bills were still producing points. The Rams' offense is rolling right now, guys. It's rolling. It got the same way last year. They lost to Detroit in the playoffs on a last-second field goal. Early in the year, they led off the year. The Rams outplayed Detroit. First game of the year, in my opinion. They lost by like 1 score. The Bills just got done playing the Rams. Tight game. Rolled the 49ers, and the 49ers have a good defense, even if their offense ain't. They put 35 points up against the 49ers. They beat the Bills by 9. They beat the Dolphins. They didn't beat them by a lot, but they beat them. They beat Seattle 31-10 there. They put up 34 points on the Titans, which the Titans have a really good pass defense. Bills are good, man. They're real good. I wonder if they are better in Detroit. We're going to find out. Like I said, I'm right on the edge with Detroit right now, as far as whether they're great or not. I think the Bills might be borderline great, but I'm going to take the Bills. I just like the trend they're going in versus the Lions. It should be a really good game, though. Be a fun one to watch. I like the Bills.
All right, splitting that one. On to the other co-game of the week, Pittsburgh at Philly. The Pennsylvania showdown here. Pittsburgh's 10-3, Philly's 11-2.
What's the drama going down with Hurts and A.J. Brown? I've been hearing about it, don't know much about it.
I think A.J. Brown said something of the sort of the passing is the problem or something like that. So, hey, look.
I agree with him. Yeah, I like A.J. Brown.
A.J. Brown's been known to cause some shit. So, I don't think it's an issue. I don't think it's going to affect Philly. This is a tough game here. I like Pittsburgh. Have you seen Pittsburgh's remaining schedule?
No, I haven't.
Brutal.
Yeah.
At Philly, at Baltimore, Kansas City, Cincinnati.
Yeah.
Brutal. I don't like them to win this game, but I do like them to cover the 5. Is that what you're seeing it at 5?
I think I seen it.
That's what I got it at. Pittsburgh, Mike Tomlin as an underdog. I'll take it all day. You giving me 5 points with Pittsburgh, I'm all over that.
You love Mike Tomlin. He's a good coach, though. I like Mike Tomlin.
Mike Tomlin might be the best coach in the NFL. The dude's never had a losing record.
Yeah. I don't know.
What?
He's good.
He's
good.
Years.
No, he's real good. I'm not.
18 years.
I like him.
Dude's never had a losing
That's
record.
right. They're a good organization,
Dude,
too.
That is a coach right there.
You got to give the GM some credit, too. They've had some borderline losing records.
Great organization.
They've not had a lot of great.
Top to bottom.
They've not had a lot of great years under him, though. They've had a lot of solid years, but they ain't
won
had
a Super Bowl.
Yeah, but they ain't had a lot of just look. I don't want to get into hating Mike Tomlin because I do like Mike Tomlin. I like him a lot, and I love the Pittsburgh organization. I just do. I like what they've done as a group, and
I'll take Mike Tomlin right now. Trade him for Mike McDaniels.
Oh, I don't blame you there. I think Mike Tomlin's a really good coach. I wouldn't put him in my top 5 NFL coaches. Probably the next group in top 10. But I do like the guy, and I like how Pittsburgh sticks with their coaches. I like that. You know me, Charlie. I do not believe in firing coaches quick. I just don't. If that's your guy, you invested in him.
Name me 5 coaches that are better than him.
I think both the Harbaughs are.
You're crazy.
Okay.
Maybe Jim.
John's pretty good himself.
I give you Andy Reid.
McVay, Andy Reid.
McVay is not better than
McVay's
Mike
tough,
Tomlin.
dude.
No
McVay's
way.
Tough. Dan Campbell.
No way.
I like Tomlin.
Dan Campbell's been a coach for 3 years.
You said who's the best. You didn't say who was the most proven. You didn't say who the most proven was.
Dan Campbell is not a better coach than Mike Tomlin. There's no way.
I tell you what, his players.
I love Dan Campbell.
Hey, Dan Campbell. It seems like his players are playing for him. Listen, I'm not sold on Dan Campbell as a coach, but I think Mike Tomlin's good. I don't want to get into Mike Tomlin hate because I think the guy's good. I still think Sean Payton's good. I just do. Now, not everybody has equal talent, and that's where the NFL's tough. But I think he's a top 10 coach. I do, and I think Pittsburgh's a top 5 organization. It's no hate against Mike Tomlin. I don't want to be that because it's not. I think he's a good leader of men.
Would you street fight him?
I'd go get my buddy McDermott to street fighting.
I'm taking Pittsburgh +5.
All right,
I don't like him to win the game, but I'll take him +5 all day in this.
Listen, y'all know how I feel in here. I think Jalen Hurts is very average, maybe even a pinch below average.
Well, if he is, guess whose defense will eat that up?
No, they got a good running game. They got a good offensive line. All he's got to do is manage the game, and that's about what he does. And A.J. Brown called him out for it, it sounds like. Watch that guy play sometimes, guys. Just go watch him play. Don't watch the numbers. Just go watch him play. He just don't do nothing special. He's not horrible. He don't make a lot of mistakes. He's a game. I thought you said it best. He's a game manager. They got Saquon. They got a great offensive line, a great defense. Devontae Smith, AJ, they're loaded. I like Philly. I think Philly, the Carolina game, they sleptwalked through that game. They were playing really good going into that. I still don't know what happened there, but I'll give them that break. Maybe they were looking ahead. But this is a big game. I'll take Philly minus the points. Matter of fact, I think they might kind of control this game pretty good. I think this is a game they don't overlook, and I just think they're better in Pittsburgh. And I think Pittsburgh's a really good team, though. I take nothing away from Pittsburgh, but I think Philly will be able to play that hard-nosed game, but they just got a lot more playmakers. So I'll take Philly.
Too many points.
I got you.
Too many points. All right, next game, Tampa at the Chargers. This is going to be a good game. This is an interesting game. This is an interesting game to me. Both of these teams are fighting for a playoff spot. Tampa Bay's fighting to win a division.
Mm-hmm.
As a matter of fact, I think after Atlanta's collapse in the last few weeks, I think Tampa is actually in first place right now in the division. I was thinking about betting Tampa Bay to win that division maybe 5 weeks ago while they had their injuries. But I didn't, only because Atlanta had swept them already. So I thought it was going to be, instead of like they were down 2 games, but they were ultimately already down 3 because they had been swept. They've already overtaken them, I think, in the standings.
Talking about divisional bets, I was looking at my future bets the other day. I bet $100 on the Eagles at plus 450. I don't know what a point they were plus 450 to win their division. I bet's looking. I mean, it ain't no big monster bet, but I got
on who?
The Eagles to win their division. That's it's looking great.
Plus 450. When did you get that?
I don't know. I'll have to bring the ticket and show you. I got plus. It was back. You know, maybe when they were going through their struggles there for a minute. I don't know, but I got them at plus.
It had to have been the first 4 or 5 weeks when Washington was in first place.
Yeah, probably was.
It had to be.
Yep, I have that ticket. I didn't even realize I had it, but I do have it.
Yeah, I mean, this is a very interesting game to me. You know how I feel. If y'all have listened, you know how I feel about Tampa Bay. I like Tampa Bay. I like this team. I like Baker. They've been playing good. They've got to have one of the toughest schedules in the NFL. But I think this is a bad spot for them. I really do. The Chargers, they're coming off a loss, aren't they? Who'd they play last
2
week?
points, Kansas City.
Yeah, that's right. They're coming off the Kansas City loss. Tampa is coming off of a handful of wins in a row. How many wins they got in a row?
Tampa.
Like 5?
1,
4?
2, 3.
Am I wrong about that?
No, 3 wins. They have 49. They lost to the 49ers and the Chiefs. They only got 3 wins in a row. They beat the Raiders, the Panthers, and the Giants. So.
And then before that?
They lost to the 49ers and Chiefs back-to-back. And then the
Right.
Falcons,
They
Chiefs, lost 3 in a row.
They could have won that Chiefs game, though. That was that primetime game that they should have won.
They could have lost that Panthers game.
They cruised in that one, just like you said Philly did last week. I just think this is a bad spot for Tampa.
Yeah.
I think the Chargers bounce back after their loss. Still like Tampa to sneak in them playoffs.
I got you. I think they're going to win that division. I think they lose. I think they lose this game, but I don't think. I'm a little scared of Tampa right here. I don't think the Chargers are going to blow anybody out. They don't have the offense to blow people out, but they play with defense. I think Jim Harbaugh is a great coach. Yeah, I'll take the Chargers at home, but I think Tampa definitely wins that division. That division, the Saints and Atlanta, they're not going to do nothing.
No, well, the Saints definitely aren't. And Atlanta's in a free fall right now. They better get back on track this week.
Tampa's got that division.
Speaking of that, I'm still alive in my elimination pool.
Eliminator.
100 and I think 10 people left.
110 people. It's getting low. And you got Baltimore this week to pick, don't you?
I got Baltimore.
They're minus 15.
I'm taking Baltimore.
You sure you don't want to hold out on Baltimore and save them?
No, there ain't no saving at this point.
What about if you get beat by DeVito from Baltimore? Would you hate Baltimore forever?
I already I don't hate Baltimore. I love Baltimore, but I hate the Ravens. And if that was to happen, absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, that would be even a bigger dagger because I don't ever like. Does that say 38-36?
What's that, the score?
Yeah.
I didn't see it.
I think Kentucky's only up 2 after we just talked. Look,
yeah.
They are.
You jinxed them, dude. You jinxed them. As soon as he said it, it never failed. I do it all the time on
they're
stuff.
Up 2 at halftime. It was 17-0.
They got their.
I will say we do play a lot better in the second half than we do in the first half. I can't believe we got off to that fast start though, and we're only up 2. That must have been a collapse. I didn't.
The Charlie Winkle effect.
I did. I jinxed the shit out of that. My minus 31 is down the drain. There is no way they're coming.
Oh, they might. You never know. Like that. I know it sounds crazy, but you never know.
All right, last game. Green Bay minus 3 at Seattle.
That's a good game. Seattle's playing good. I don't like Seattle, but they're playing good.
We're almost at the end of the year, and I still don't know what Seattle is. What they are is, just a mediocre team that's been playing good. They're on a 4-game win streak, actually. Green Bay, they're getting a little bit of extra rest here from Thursday night. They played Detroit, right? They played Detroit last Thursday. Green Bay's a good team.
They're real good.
They are.
Give me Green Bay.
Yeah, I'm taking Green Bay here too. Seattle, 4-game win streak. I don't think they're that good to be having 4 and 5-game win streaks. I like Green Bay on the road -3. Yeah, I like that a lot actually.
Mm-hmm. I do too.
You on Green Bay too.
You know, Green Bay, the only team Green Bay's lost to in the last, this sounds crazy, but let's count them. 1, 2, 3, 4,
Detroit.
5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 games is Detroit. They're 7-2 last 9 games. Detroit. They had
Both losses to Detroit.
Yeah, the last one was just a 3-pointer at Detroit. So Green Bay's pretty tough right now.
They are. And Seattle.
Seattle's playing good, though. Seattle's playing good, and I'm just not a Geno Smith guy. I wish I could because I don't mind the team itself. I've always kind of like Seattle a little bit, but I just don't like Geno. I guess how you get something in your mind that somebody's no good. Maybe I need to. He throws a decent ball.
Yeah, I know how you get that in your mind.
Yeah.
You got a few of those.
Yeah, I do.
Jalen Hurts.
Jalen Hurts is no good.
Patrick Mahomes.
I would take Geno any day over Jalen Hurts, dude. Now listen, I think Patrick Mahomes is good. I think Geno's good. Yes,
over Hurts.
I think Hurts is the most overrated player in it. Go watch him, dude. That's why AJ Brown's calling him out.
I've watched him plenty of times.
He's always on great teams at Alabama, at Philly. Dude, if you watch him, he don't do nothing. His ball goes from 12 to 6. He throws a 12 to 6 ball out of his hands. I just don't feel like when the ball comes out of his hands, he don't look like a quarterback that's skipping that ball across the air. He throws this 12 to 6 ball. You don't see no quarterback in the NFL throw that ball.
All right, so we are on the Rams, Miami, the Chargers, and Green Bay. What's your top pick there? I love the Rams. I told you, rock 'em, sock 'em, lock 'em, all that good stuff.
Yeah.
I like the Rams. You said you really like Miami. Rams, Miami.
I like Green Bay. You like Green Bay or no?
Yeah.
I know it's at Seattle. I know sometimes them road games.
Let's just put them all 4 together. We'll do the 4-gamer.
And who's our 2 strongest?
You want to do a 2-gamer?
You pick your strongest. I'll pick mine. For me, it will be. I'll take the Dolphins. My strongest pick. I like the Dolphins at spot. I think Houston's overvalued. I just do. I think they're overvalued, and I think Miami's a pinch undervalued. And I just think it's a good matchup for Miami. I do.
I'm gonna take McVay and the Rams.
Okay.
Might regret that if I do. That'd be another team that I can't figure out. Would be San Francisco, or get on the not figure out, but get on the right side of, because I feel like I've been on the wrong side of them a lot this year. I'm riding a hot hand and a quarterback that I love and trust. And
he's
Matt
good,
Stafford,
dude. I watched him last week against the Bills. There's not just pure passing. They're probably the best pure passing team in the NFL. I'm telling you. I know Josh Allen's the best player. I know Miami's got a good little passing game, but man, they just hook up on their passing game. They just do.
The Rams already beat San Francisco this year too. And they beat him when San Francisco was fairly healthy. Yeah, McCaffrey wasn't there. I think it was 2nd or 3rd game of the year. McCaffrey wasn't back yet, but San Francisco was healthy, and the Rams didn't have Puka Nacua that game either.
Puka's their best player.
They still beat him.
He's their best player.
We're going to go Rams and Miami, and then we're going to take a 4-game parlay with Rams, Miami, the Chargers, and Green Bay.
For those of you who don't know, I keep up with the Rams. The Rams are starting to get really healthy. They had a lot of offensive line injuries. They're getting those guys back. They signed a couple guys on defense that were starters for other teams that I forget the names, but one of them was a cornerback. Puka and Kupp was hurt early, but last year the same thing happened. They had all these injuries, and they got stupid hot at the end. They might have been playing some of the best football in the NFL. Go back and look. The end of the season came along. They lost to Detroit on a controversial pass interference call, but keep your eyes on the Rams.
All right, guys, that is another episode of Blitz the Bookie. Thank you guys for listening. As always, please share us with somebody. Tell somebody about us. Tell somebody to check us out, download, get on TikTok, get on the social media platforms, leave us a comment, leave us some feedback. Tell us what you want us to talk about next episode. We want all that. We want all the information. We want all the feedback. Like I said, we are not scared of bad feedback either. So if we're doing something that you don't like, tell us that too. We ain't scared of it. Catch y'all next week, guys.
Yep, guys, as always, thanks for listening to the podcast. We appreciate it. as we are trying to fine-tune our skills, we'd like to say thank you. Thank you. It means a lot. You don't got to do this. We know we're a small-time podcast. It's just getting started. But for that, we say thank you. And as Blitz the Bookie would like to say, remember to always have your cat spayed or neutered, and go Cats this weekend.
Go Cats. Catch y'all next week, guys. Blitz the Bookie.